Welcome to the best of the tie-in.
We're speaking to Ken Deans from KD Productions, and he's been instrumental in bringing innovation and sustainability to productions such as Coachella, Stagecoach, and many other large global event productions. And please tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey around innovation and sustainability.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here. I've been doing this now for 30 plus years, and my journey towards sustainability started right around 2004 when we were trying to get a show with Jack Johnson at our amphitheater in Portland. And we got sent this rider from Jack's management. What was our level of sustainability? So we had to answer this questionnaire. Were we composting? Were we recycling? How much garbage were we putting in? What was our carbon footprint? And I really hadn't thought that much about it until I started reading through it. And then I started making the phone calls. It's like, how do I do this? I found out it wasn't extraordinarily difficult to do it. At the time, the difference was cost. All of a sudden, our 19-cent beer cup was now going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 29 cents. But when you look at things like beer, where you've got a 72% margin anyway, you're going, oh, okay, well, I can do this and it's really not going to kill me. And there was a lot of technology in the beginning where the cups would melt and all sorts of things. And we started learning. And one of the things that I kept looking at as we were going through the whole process was we're buying a lot of gas and diesel. And back, even as early as the early 2000s, the equipment was still ancient. And so you'd fire it up and big black smoke would come out. And it kept bothering me that there wasn't a better solution. So I just kind of let it go. Then I got a call, I believe it was in 2016. I do a lot of consulting on mergers and acquisitions. So one of my agencies called me and said, hey, we would like you to speak to this company about battery solutions for large scale events. And I went, awesome. It's like, wow, I really want to get into this. Let's do it. I wanted to do a proof of concept of battery solar power and how we could get rid of diesel generators, light towers, all these different things that we're using, and not only make not just the sustainability case, but make a financial case as well.
Had you considered incorporating batteries before that phone call?
So I've been trying to figure out how to do something. I just didn't know what. I'm not an electrical engineer, so I didn't know what the best thing was. I talked to one of my neighbors is a solar contractor, and I talked to him and he said, well, you could do this, this, and this, but it's really for household. And he goes, I don't know, it's not really portable. It's not really there yet. And so when I got that phone call, it was like, oh my gosh, here's the opportunity. Here's a way to open the door and say, look, this stuff actually works and we can make it happen. We identified 3 options. One of the options was the environmental monitoring cans that we have around the site. Part of our, for Coachella and Stagecoach, we have to monitor sound and dust that we produce around the site into the neighborhood. So we had been using a light tower to power those cans. So that was taking 28 gallons of diesel a day, running 24/7, running 31 days.
Measuring an environmental monitoring station.
Yeah. And so it just seemed like this total oxymoron that we're just using this most inefficient diesel motor, to power these cans that are supposed to monitor the environment. So we put a 2K portable electric battery with 2 solar panels on the roof, and it didn't go below 98% for the whole month.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we're talking, it was so ridiculous. We're talking about these instruments that are pulling like 600 milliamps. I mean, it's really nothing. But we're using this diesel generator, and creating pollution and wasting money and fuel and human resources and equipment and everything down the line to do it. So now today, all of those cans are now being solar battery monitored.
Amazing.
There's no more.
So saving 28 gallons a day of diesel.
Times 6.
Times
Times 6.
Yeah, times 31. And the labor to fill it every day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's really phenomenal. And then we were doing the same thing, although we're using Honda 2K generators that were gasoline that had to be filled 3 times a night because the tanks weren't big enough for our light towers in the parking lot. So now all of those are on battery. So in the truck stop, we're now using batteries to power the offices. So we have these batteries that are in like a U-Haul 5x8 trailer.
with solar.
We didn't even put solar on one of the offices this year, and it got down to 48% for the month.
Well, so you ran a worksite trailer, you mean?
Yeah.
With air conditioning off of a big battery in a cargo trailer, cargo van.
Yeah. Yes. And didn't even put the solar up.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, but we did use solar for the rest of it. It's the technology of the batteries is evolving rapidly. And as I look at what's going on with the inverters and how they're getting much more efficient, we're now starting to see that there's some endless possibility. The big issue we still have now is convincing an artist to let us use a battery instead of a diesel generator on the stage. However, we are certainly looking at expanding those programs, not only to some of the smaller stages where the artists don't maybe have as big a voice. We may have the bigger voice and can convince them it'll be fine. Also to the food and beverage, so that we can stop running diesel generators for all of the cold containers. I can see it rapidly changing, that within the next 3 to 5 years, we'll have more battery solar than we will diesel.
I'm curious, when you're planning, these large festivals, how are the conversations with other folks when you're thinking about kind of incorporating these batteries or setting up an innovation hub or something to test for the next year or whatever? How does that go?
Well, the good news for me is I'm in an environment that allows me to experiment. And if I can and AEG has a very large sustainability sector in globally in the company. We're less than like 3% of AEG global, and AEG Live controls, almost 1,000 venues globally. So, we're not the major part of the company. However, they do believe in science, do believe in sustainability. So, when I want to bring something to them, I know the format it has to be. First, I have to show them, here's the problem. Here's what we've been doing in the past to solve this problem. It works, but it's just purely a Band-Aid. Here's what we can do to solve the problem ethically and with sustainability. Here's how we can do it within the economics that we need to stay in. And when I can show them all 3 of those different parts of the puzzle, they're like, okay, fine, go do it. The upper management of Goldenvoice is phenomenal, as is the AEG people. Their sustainability people are just terrific people. As long as you can show, all the pieces of the puzzle and show that you've thought it out and it's just not just a knee-jerk reaction. Probably 10 times out of 10, I'm going to get a green light. It's only when I don't have the answers, they'll just say, okay, you're not ready yet. Go back and get me this answer.
Mm-hmm.
We can answer A, B, and C, then we can take a look at it.
How about the folks on the ground that are working with this equipment? Is it tough to convince them? I remember, we had met in 2018 when we had the volt stacks on site, and I remember the folks on the ground were resistant. At first we'd put a 5K on a Kubota with a solar panel, and at first they were suspect, and then the next day they got used to it. Then the third day they were off and running, and they didn't even think about it. But there's always this resistance at the beginning that we've seen. How have you overcome that?
Well, part of the reason I've overcome it is because we were successful in that first round. The tipping point for that crew, what we call festival operations, was they were using Honda 5K generators, and we put that 5K battery in the back, which was just a little bit bigger, but not much, than the Honda. The difference for them was they could plug in 2 chop saws and turn them on, and it didn't blow a fuse. They kept having to reset fuses on the Honda if they forgot, and one guy turned on a saw when another saw was running at the same time because it had a voltage surge, which the Honda couldn't handle, and the battery didn't even look at it. It was a non-issue to the battery. So, this is where, once they started understanding the physics of it and the different dynamics on how it worked, it became really easy for them to do it. And especially in the truck stop, when instead of using road construction light towers to light it up, we used the standalone night spiders, and we had to trench to run the cable to it, but they didn't have to come fill up our light towers, and they still don't. So we're still using that same kind of scenario in the truck stop. That just saves labor and time. The nice thing is because of what we did in 2018, Herc, which is the new Hertz heavy equipment rental company, has purchased several different iterations of light towers. Some are just standalone plug-in, some are solar, some are hybrid. They have these cubes that we can put them in a remote place, and they will only use 24 gallons of diesel for the entire month. It's like a Prius light tower.
Yeah, hybrid light tower.
Yeah, it spawned this whole iteration of different ideas to do what you can do with different types of generation. And, I'm really proud of what we've done with the light towers, because pretty much we don't have any of the old style anymore. You've seen Allman and Generac have all took notice of everything. And I'd like to think that we were a part of that. They're now starting to look at what they're doing and go, oh, well, we need to have this, this, and this. And we don't necessarily need to have a light tower running all day for a guard to plug in his phone. And they've made different options. And so it's really impressive to see that something that, well, Mark, you and I were both a part of, even though that was, 6-7 years ago, the evolution has just been phenomenal.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. We'd love for you to like, subscribe, and share. We do this because we love doing it. We believe in what we're doing, and we believe in the amazing guests that we have. So please share this with a friend and a colleague and spread the word.
Our designer is Aaliyah Kane. Music is by Peter Chapman. Social media is by Sharon Ewan. Our editor and producer is Rachel Werbel.